Alcohols are organic compounds into which meron siyang hydroxyl group. The hydroxyl group serves as the functional group for all alcohol. All alcohols, or the general formula for alcohol, is ROH, wherein R represents the series of carbon atoms. Okay? And or more likely the alkyl group. Okay? So the simplest alcohol is methanol. Meth stands for one carbon atom. And of course, it has the hydroxyl group. So if you're going to expand this, the carbon atom with 4 bond requirement. So may hydrogen siya dyan. That's the CH3. Okay, and one single bond is attached to the hydroxyl group. The hydroxyl group looks like this one. Okay, so the oxygen should meet the 2 bond requirement. It is attached to the carbon atom and to the hydrogen, and of course the hydrogen will only have 1 bond requirement. Okay, so alcohol could be named in two ways. It could be an IUPAC or a common name. Okay, but common name is only applicable for simple alcohols. Okay, so methanol will have a common name of methyl alcohol. This is composed of two words. One word for the alkyl group and the word alcohol to denote that there is the OH or the hydroxyl. And then another example of alcohol is ethanol with the common name of ethyl alcohol. So F still denotes that there are two carbon atoms in that alkyl group, and of course the ol will have the suffix ol at the last part of the IUPAC name will denote that there is the presence of the functional group hydroxyl. Okay, we also have 2-propanol, or this could be the synonym propan 2-ol, and the common name is isopropyl alcohol. Okay, so we have classifications of alcohol, just like what we did in organic halides. For it to be considered as primary alcohol, okay, our reference would be the hydroxyl group being attached to that carbon atom. That carbon atom should be a primary carbon atom. Let's recall, for it to be considered as primary carbon atom, it should be attached to only one carbon atom. So the neighboring carbon atom of a primary carbon atom is only one, such that it is bearing two hydrogen. Okay? For it to be classified as secondary, our reference would be the carbon atom bearing the hydroxyl group. Okay? So, titignan natin yan. Dapat may naka-attach na dalawang series of carbon atom to this secondary, because that's a secondary carbon atom. Okay? For it to be classified as secondary alcohol, the carbon atom containing the hydroxyl should be a secondary carbon atom. Okay, and of course, the hydrogen for the secondary alcohols are, okay, so isa lang yung naka-attach dun sa secondary carbon atom. Okay, and for it to be a tertiary alcohol, the hydroxyl group should be attached to a tertiary carbon atom. And that tertiary carbon atom should bear or should be connected to 3 other carbon atom or series of carbon atom. These represents alkyl group, and alkyl groups are just series of carbon atoms. Okay? So, as made mention a while ago, we have two naming system, the common name and the IUPAC name. So, for the common name, this is only for simple alcohol. it should have the word of it should it consists of the name of the alkyl plus the word alcohol. Okay, so one this is the series of carbon atom, and this is the functional group. This is normal propyl alcohol. There are 4 carbon atom arranged in a linear connections, and at the last would be the hydroxyl. So these 4 carbon atoms is represented by but, and means they are in linear, normal butyl, and then the word alcohol. There should be space in between because this is composed of 2 words. Okay, then we also have secondary butyl alcohol. Secondary because the difference between normal butyl and the secondary, the hydroxyl group for the normal butyl is attached on the carbon number 1, and secondary butyl is attached, the hydroxyl group is attached on the second carbon atom. Then we have isopropyl alcohol. Propyl means 3 carbon atom. This is isopropyl because the hydroxyl group is attached on the second carbon atom. Remember here, the propyl alcohol, hydroxyl is attached on the first, while as for isopropyl, it is attached on the second. We also have isobutyl alcohol. Okay, the difference, the hydroxyl group has been attached on this carbon atom. However, the arrangement of butyl, so yung methyl group ay naka-attach dito sa middle carbon atom. Okay? So pag butyl, dire-diretsong 4 na carbon atom yan. Pero pag isobutyl, medyo na-rearrange. Okay? So may branching na nangyari dito. And the hydroxyl group has been attached on this carbon atom here. Okay? Then we have tertiary butyl. Tertiary butyl naman, ang pinagkaiba ng tertiary butyl sa isobutyl, the hydroxyl group here will be attached on the center carbon atom. Pag tertiary. Pag isobutyl naman, dito siya sa edge naka-attach. Okay? So, ito yung tertiary butyl, and this one would be isobutyl, dito siya naka-attach. So, malaking difference. And then, the last simple alcohol would be neopentyl, having this structure. Pentyl pa rin siya because we have 5 carbon atoms. However, it was a neopentyl because the hydroxyl group has been attached on this carbon atom. Ang pag-pentyl alcohol, 5 carbon atom na magkakasunod-sunod. And then the hydroxyl group will be at the last part, or on this edge part, or first carbon atom. This is pentyl alcohol. So 5 carbon atoms. Ang neopentyl, ganito yung structure niya. Okay? Now what about for IUPAC naming? Okay, rule number 1, you have to find for the longest carbon chain na nagbe-bear ng hydroxyl group. So, hindi lang siya dapat longest, rather, nandun din yung carbon atom na pinag-attachan ng hydroxyl group. And that would be the parent chain. Okay, since the carbon-to-carbon bond ay single, so we are adopting the alkene name. However, we are going to drop the E. And we have to add the suffix OL. So lahat ng alcohol will have a suffix OL to denote that they are under the family of alcohol. So the meth methane kanina would then become methanol. If there are two carbon atoms, so that would be their single bond. The alkane group is, the alkane name rather, is ethane. However, according to rule number 1, we are going to drop the E. So erase the E, and then you have to add the suffix OL to denote that there is the presence of hydroxyl group. So ethanol, magiging ethanol siya. Okay, let's have this example. So for this type, ang longest chain supposed to be, ang pinakamahaba is 5 carbon atoms. However, hindi natin pipiliin yung 5 carbon atoms kasi we have this hydroxyl group at the bottom. Kapag pinili natin yung 5 carbon atom, hindi na isama yung carbon atom bearing the hydroxyl. So therefore, we have to look for a way na dapat included yung carbon atom bearing the hydroxyl, and this one would be the parent chain. So the parent chain will have 4 carbon atoms, therefore the parent chain name is butanol. It has 4 carbon atoms, so but sana yan. And then the single bond, so that is butane. However, because of the presence of the hydroxyl group there, we are going to drop the E, erase the E, and we have to add suffix OL. That's why it is butanol. Okay? Rule number 2. You have to number the chain starting at the nearest end of the chain bearing. Start the numbering at the end nearest to the hydroxyl group. So mag-start daw tayo ng pagbilang so that we are going to have the lowest numbered for carbon atom be assigned to that carbon atom bearing the hydroxyl group. So dapat we come up with the lowest number for the carbon atom bearing the hydroxyl. Okay. The hydroxyl, take note, the hydroxyl has the highest priority over double bond, over triple bond, as well as over other alkyl group or over other halogens. So, priority si hydroxyl. Okay, so dapat siya yung magkaroon ng lowest number kapag mag-a-assign tayo ng number dun sa parent chain. So this example would be numbered here on this end. So this is carbon number 1. So therefore, the whole of this, okay, the whole of this is 1 butanol. Okay, so that's 1 butanol. Ang 1 butanol, this is the but, and that hydroxyl group is attached on carbon 1. The hydroxyl is denoted by the suffix OL because it is the functional group for alcohol. Now, what is not included in the name 1-butanol, ang hindi na isama dun sa 1-butanol ay this part. This will have a name of ethyl because of the 2 carbon atom, and it is treated as an alkyl and it's a substituent, and it is attached on carbon number 2, so we are putting the locant 2 before the alkyl ethyl to denote that it is attached on the second carbon of the parent chain. Okay, so the IUPAC name would be 2-ethyl 1-butanol. That ethyl group is attached on the second carbon atom. The functional group hydroxyl for that OL is attached on the first carbon atom of the parent chain butanol with 4 carbon atoms. These 2-ethyl 1-butanol will have a synonym 2-ethyl butan 1-ol. So remember, this locant will be inserted between the name of the prefix for the carbon atom, for the number of carbon atom, and the suffix OL. So kaya, pero synonyms lang din sila, parehas lang din. Okay. And we still apply the rule for dashes that it would be separating word from a number. And if there are two numbers to be separated, we have to use comma. Okay. So these other examples. So we have parent chain, 5 carbon atoms. That's why it is pentanol. It is numbered from numbered from right to left, such that this would be carbon number 1, so that the hydroxyl group will be attached to carbon number 1 and not 5 daw. Not, sabi niya. Hindi tayo mag-uumpisa dito sa left because the hydroxyl group has the priority over the methyl. Okay? So, this one would be carbon number 1. So, that's 1 pentanol. So, kasama na sa pentanol si hydroxyl. Ang hindi na isama ay ang methyl group, and it is attached on the 4th carbon atom. That's why the IUPAC name is 4-methyl 1-pentanol. Hindi pwedeng 2 and 5 kasi priority ulit yung hydroxyl. The synonym for this one is 4-methyl pentan 1-ol. Okay? Then we have this one. The parent chain has 3 carbon atoms, and the hydroxyl group has been attached on the first carbon atom, so that one would be 1-propanol. Okay, it should be propane, but we are dropping the E and add OL. It was numbered from right to left because the hydroxyl group has a priority over the halogen chlorine. And because of that, the halogen will be attached on carbon number 3. So therefore, the name is 3-chloro-1-propanol or 3-chloro-propan-1-ol. Okay. We have polyhydroxy alcohols. This one will have, these are the type of alcohol that bears more than one hydroxyl group. Okay, so glycols are the alcohol that contains 2 hydroxyl group. And the IUPAC naming system here would be using prefixes di. Kasi kanina, if there's only one hydroxyl, we are adding OL. Okay? However, if there are 2 hydroxyl groups, the suffix will then become diol. The di means it represents that there are 2. If there are 3 hydroxyl group being attached on the series of carbon atom, the suffix will then become triol. Okay, so the 3 will be denoted with a prefix tri, and so on. If there are 4, tetra, and there are 5, penta, and so on. Okay, so for this case, we have a diol. So there are 2 carbon atoms, and that is ethane. Okay, so we are not going to drop the E of, kasi kanina dinadrop natin eh. So we have ethane. Okay, if there are 2 hydroxyl group, we are going to retain the E just to make it sound nicer. So ethane diol. And we are still going to denote the position of this hydroxyl group. For this case, it is 1,2-ethane diol. It also has a common name, ethylene glycol. Okay? The synonym for 1,2-ethane diol is ethane 1,2-diol. Okay? We also have trimethylene glycol. That's the common name for 1,3-propane diol. Propane, because there are 3 carbon atoms. And the hydroxyl group are attached on the first and the third carbon atom of the parent chain. It is important that we have to write the position of this hydroxyl group kasi pwedeng nandito rin siya, pwede rin parehas silang nasa 1 or parehas silang nasa 2. So it is important to indicate the position of the hydroxyl group. Still, we have to follow the rule that we have to use a comma if we are separating two numbers. Okay, 1,3-propane diol will have a synonym propane 1,3-diol, and the common name is trimethylene glycol. Okay, remember, we are not going to erase the E at the name of the alkane. Rather, we are going to retain it so that it would sound nicer. Propane diol. Okay. So, ito yon. Pwede ring triol. Okay. Ang importante is the final E in the name of the alkane is retained for pronunciation reason. Okay. So, we have this as propane diol. It is attached on carbon number 1 and carbon number 2. So, it is 1,2-propane diol or propane 1,2-diol. We also have, okay, this one, propane pa rin because 3 carbon atoms. But this time it is because of triol, because of the 3 hydroxyl group being attached on the first, second, and third carbon atom of the longest chain. Okay,